Hello, and thank you for tuning into another episode of Trending with the Tribune. I'm your host, Khalees Stephens, and today we're going to talk with the President of the India Association, President Srivatsan Pallavaram. Let's get started. How are you doing, President?
Hi, Khalees. How are you?
Good. Can you just discuss what your organization is for our viewers? Because there's a lot of us that do not know what's going on as far as the India Association. So can you just give me a brief summary of what that is and what you all do?
Sure. So India is a very diverse country. We are 1.2 billion people. We have 29 states, 7 union territories, and we have 22 major languages that are recognized by the government. So we're a very diverse country. With 22 languages, we have over 780 dialects. And so every one of us in the country, depending on where we come from, we speak different languages, we wear different kinds of clothes, we eat different kinds of foods, we practice different kinds of lifestyle. So when we find ourselves here in America, which is the melting pot of all cultures, we wanted to come together. And this happened long ago in 1962, when the India Association of Nashville was formalized. Oh, wow. So the India Association of Nashville is one of the oldest India associations in America. And some of the founding members are still active in their contributions to the association and the community today. Dr. Prem Singh Kalom, along with many others, are the founding members who laid the foundations for the organization. So the way the organization functions today, after over 50 years, is to bring people of Indian origin and anybody who has roots to India to come together. And we do that on the basis of food, on the basis of culture, on the basis of activities, both for the Indian community and for the Nashville community at large. And so that's what India Association is.
And can you tell me who all is involved besides you?
Yes, so just for the same reasons as diversity, like the India Association of Nashville, pretty much every Indian demographic has its own organization. So if you're coming from a certain part of India and speak a certain language, you get together and you do activities together under a certain umbrella. For example, we have the Tamil Sangam, which is a part, belongs to a part of India that speaks a certain language and has a certain culture. We have the Telugu Samiti, we have the Kannada Kota, we have the Kerala Association, we have the Gujarati community, and they have two associations, the Gujarati Cultural Association and the Gujarati Association of Middle Tennessee. Then we have the Marathi Association, and then we have religious groups. So we have all these different demographics having their own activities under their own banners. But the goal of the India Association is then to operate as one Indian community. So that is our goal, that is also our responsibility. So what we try to do as IAN is to work with all the associations or organizations of Indian origin in Nashville together. And that's really how IAN would like to position itself.
So are you just the main leader, or do you have like a vice president?
Yes.
Or is there more leaders under you?
Yes, so we have 20 to 30 leaders in the community who are actively moving the organizations forward along with the community. So the India Association of Nashville typically has a president, vice president, a general secretary, a treasurer, 3 executive committee members, and there are a number of members on the functional committee. The current committee with me is Rajni Gupta, who is the vice president, Sujana Gonugantla, who is the general secretary, Atul Malhotra, who is the treasurer. And then on the executive committee, we have Shalini Dikshit, Adarsh Ravindran, and Praveen Lokhande. And there are a number of members on the functional committee, which I hope we will be able to put up on the video rather than going over all the names. But what we've done is, apart from that core committee for the India Association, we over the last 1 year have formulated another subcommittee. It's called the India Association of Nashville Community Integration Subcommittee. And the purpose is exactly what it says. It is to bring the community together. Just because we have such diversity, we want to make that diversity also our strength. And the only way to do that is to bring everybody together. So as you will see in one of these slides that I have for you, we have all the associations in Nashville of Indian origin having a seat at this table with this subcommittee. And their elected representatives have a chance to speak up and be part of that conversation. So that's the Community Integration Subcommittee with all the Indian organizations together from Nashville.
So when you formed this subcommittee of all of these other organizations, did you reach out to them or did they reach out to you guys? Like, how did you guys come together?
Yeah, that's a very fortuitous thing that has happened, and so we're very grateful for that. The way that triggered is last March, February-March of 2016, 2 of the most prominent and committed members of the Indian community who have served the community for decades, came up to me and said, we need to do something about this, how to bring people together. That was Dr. Pramod Vasudev, who is also the founder and president of the Indian Community Senior Support Services, along with Vinayak Trivedi ji, who also has been a past president of IAN and has continued to serve the community over decades. So these two senior members of the community came up to me and said, we need to do something to bring all these demographics together. And that was the trigger that led to everything over the last year and a half. So the platform we chose for that was to invite the Consul General of the Indian Consulate General in Atlanta, which serves all of the southeast of the US for the Indian demographic. We invited him to come over to Nashville. So last March, maybe April, we hosted the Consul General, Mr. Nagesh Singh, right here in Nashville at the Clarion Inn in downtown. And we were surprised at what happened. By his presence, we were able to bring the leaders of over 20 different Indian organizations together. And so we had this one large table where we had discussions with the Consul General and about 40 leaders from Indian organizations from Nashville. And then we went downstairs to have an open event, and to our surprise, we had 350 to 400 people of Indian origin from Nashville who showed up. And we had the support of Mayor Megan Barry. She showed up there and she gave a speech. We had Congressman Jim Cooper also involved supporting this cause. And the presence of these big leaders and all the community leaders together highlighted what we could do as a united Indian front. And that is exactly what we started to push from then on. So we got some coverage in News Channel 5 that showed up there and covered the Consul General and the event and wrote up a little article about what we were doing. And that really was the catalyst to energize not only the community, but also the leaders within the community to say that we can do this. You know, we can all come together at one table from all of our different backgrounds and contribute to not only all of us, but also to the national community at large. And so we started to build on that, and over the last year and a half, we've done about 3 large community projects. And the biggest differentiator between those efforts and anything we had done in the past was it wasn't an India Association of Nashville initiative, it was a combined initiative. India Association of Nashville just happens to be at the fulcrum, trying to be at the centerpiece to bring everybody together. But beyond that, it's the leaders of all organizations who have done what we have in the last year and a half. So credit goes to all the community leaders, goes to Dr. Pramod Vasudev and Vinayak Trivedi, who initiated the seeds for that approach. And the benefits of that we're reaping today as we go forward. To a shelter, and then find ways to give them solutions for housing over the year. And so we said this is an important cause, especially during the winter. So we had an event where we got together. Ingrid McIntyre and Samuel came and addressed the entire Indian community with these organizations, the 2023 organizations. And they said, here's what we need. And there were 2 aspects to that. One was to help with warm clothing, because that was right in the winter, it was in November. And the other was to raise some money for micro homes that they have been working on, which would help people with housing. So we said, let's take this initiative and both the aspects to that. So between mid-November to end of January, as a united Indian front, we said we're going to collect warm clothing. So we set up booths at Indian restaurants. It was primarily Bawarchi in Franklin, in Cool Springs. It's a nice restaurant. We had a booth set up there. We did a launch from there. We did a little Facebook Live, and we launched from there. And then we had booths at many other places. So we had at the temple, at the Ganesh temple, at the Gurudwara, which is also a place of worship. And then we had at a few other Indian Association locations. And we started promoting about it, talking to the community about it, and over the 2.5-month period, we ended up collecting over 3,000 pieces of clothing, particularly warm clothing for the homeless. And it was completely volunteer driven. We just initiated it as the Indian Association with all the organizations coming together. But anybody who wanted to come in and pitch in with time, money or effort did that. And we were able to push clothing as we were collecting them on a weekly basis to Open Table Nashville. And on the other half of that, we wanted to raise money. So along with collecting clothes, we were also putting the word out that we need to raise money for Open Table Nashville. And with a substantial contribution from the Sri Ganesh Temple, which is led currently by Dr. Pankaj Srivastava, and in the recent past by Dr. Vedvyas Belayar. With all of their help, we were as a collected Indian front able to donate over $18,000 to Open Table Nashville. So at least in recent memory, this was the first effort of the kind where Indians from the various Indian demographics had come together to raise in kind and in cash. And without the help of all the organizations and all the volunteers, we couldn't have collected the 3,000 plus items of clothing. Yeah. And without a significant help from the Ganesha temple and others from the community, we couldn't have donated $18,000 plus to Open Table Nashville. So at our biggest event, which happens in August, which just happened, the India Independence Day event, we were able to bring in Samuel Lester and Ingrid McIntyre up on the stage. And with about 40 leaders in the backdrop of all these Indian organizations in Nashville, we were able to present them a check with the Ganesha temple of the order of $18,000. Wow. So that's how we started our first project together. And then we had to face with a tragic incident that happened in the US, which was the killing of Srinivas Kuchibotla, an Indian engineer who was shot dead through a hate crime. And as we started to grasp that situation, we said we needed to do something to express ourselves peacefully on our mourning and what we feel about what had happened. So within a period of about 10 days from the incident, we reached out to the same regional associations. About 30-40 leaders came together again, and then the India Association with all of them at the Ganesha temple conducted a candlelight vigil. So it was a beautiful, peaceful candlelight vigil where about 300 people showed up and held lit up candles to express their grief and to demonstrate why it is important to think about love and peace and equality. And the whole message about being together in this wonderful country that is America. And so that was another event, although tragic, that brought us together and gave us the belief that yes, we can. We certainly can come together as a diverse Indian community and showcase the message of peace and also give back to the community. So from that, our first real event for the year was what we do every year, and it is one of the most fun events. It's called Holi. Holi is a festival of colors, and we typically do that in the Percy-Warner Park, and we had about 800 people come together for about 3 hours in a world of colors. So we had kids and adults and seniors, we had good food and we had good music, and we had just colors thrown up in the air and everybody's faces were full of colors.
Was it kind of like a paintball fight? Because I've seen
it might, like something like that. It might look like a paintball fight, but it's just dry powder. So you just throw powder at somebody and they come and put it on your face. So it's a fun event. It's almost identical to the color run that happens in Nashville a couple of times a year and across most places in the world. And I'm pretty sure I can say the color run was actually inspired by this Indian festival of Holi. Yeah. So from Holi is where we really start our activities. And from there we went on to do a few other things. We did some sports events like a bowling tournament. And then we built up slowly into what I was talking to you earlier about, the biggest event we do for the year, which is the celebration of India's independence. And India got independent on August 15, 1947. And so in Nashville we celebrated on a weekend that's close to that date. So this year it was August 13th, and we do it typically at the Vanderbilt University Langford Auditorium, and we fill it up. The auditorium has a capacity of about 1,100, and we fill every seat up. And that's what we did this year, and that's the flyer that you have, which is, we had the Consul General of the Indian Consulate General from Atlanta, Nageshji, who was the chief guest, along with Marty Paslick, who is the Senior Vice President and the Chief Information Officer for HCA, and Representative Sabi Kumar, who is part of the Tennessee General Assembly. And so these were our three main speakers, along with Dr. Pramod Vasudev, who addressed the gathering. And the message there was the same. It was about continuing to come together and build on this momentum to not only make ourselves better as a community, but to focus actively on giving back to the greater Nashville community. And towards that effort is where we continue the rest of the year, which is we do homeless lunches for loaves and fishes, which has been going on for about 27 years through the India Association of Nashville. Was also spearheaded by Dr. Pramod Vasudev and others. Our biggest one of that is during the period of Christmas, And so we're going to work towards the next one that's coming up. We're also hoping to donate about 1,000 work hours to Second Harvest from the Nashville Indian community. And so the rest of the year will hopefully go towards community outreach, giving back to Nashville, a few sports events, a few entertainment events, and then call it a wrap at the end of the year.